the camera crew walked off set. And you will learn that one of the reasons that camera crew walked out is because they were concerned over safety breaches with the use of firearms. The evidence will show that the morning of October 21st started out a couple of hours behind. They filmed some scenes at this church on the Bonanza Creek Ranch. And you will see that one of those scenes required the defendant to pull out his gun. This was in the morning. Pull out his gun, and you'll hear the director tell him, pull it out and hold it. And the first time, you'll see evidence the defendant does what the director tells him. But you will hear the director tell you that many times the defendant would do his own thing. So then the director in the morning asked him, okay, do it again, just like you did now. The defendant pulls out the gun, but this time he cocks the hammer. The evidence will show they then broke for lunch. And around 1:30 or so, they came back to this church to do what's called a blocking. The evidence will show that Ms. Hutchins wanted to do a blocking for an insert, and you will learn what a blocking is, just working out the details of the moves of the actor. It wasn't even a rehearsal. You will hear from one of the witnesses who walked into the church and saw the defendant kind of playing with his gun. And then you will see evidence or hear evidence that Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza were talking to the defendant about doing this insert. And the insert was just supposed to be from here to here, and it was supposed to be of the defendant just slowly taking his gun out of his holster, and just holding it at an angle. The evidence will show that someone asked the armorer to bring the defendant's gun to him, and she did. She brought it into the church, showed it to David Halls, who you will learn was the first assistant director. The gun was empty. Ms. Gutierrez then handed the gun to the defendant. But then you will hear that Ms. Gutierrez was given the gun back, and she took it and loaded it with dummy rounds. And what you will learn is that dummy rounds are inert rounds. They look like real rounds, but they are very easy to tell that they are not because they'll rattle. Ms. Gutierrez then went back to the church, showed the revolver to the first assistant director very fast. They only checked about 3 rounds, very quick. And they missed 1 round. You will learn that one of the rounds in that revolver was a real round. And the evidence will show that Ms. Gutierrez then handed the gun to the defendant. And what you will learn is that once again, the defendant failed to do a gun check or a safety check with this armorer. So he takes the firearm, puts it in his holster. Then Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza were doing this blocking. And the evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that the defendant, again, did his own thing. You will hear from an individual by the name of Kent Jorgensen. Mr. Jorgensen will tell you that he's been involved in drafting and revising movie set safety rules. You will learn that these movie set safety rules require actors, like the defendant, to treat every firearm as though it's loaded, to never point a firearm at another person, and to never put your finger on the trigger unless you're prepared to shoot or to destroy whatever's in front of you. The evidence will show that on October 21st, 2021, after that lunch break, the defendant once again violated those set safety rules. And during this blocking, The director had instructed him to just slowly take out that gun and just hold it at an angle. But you will see that the defendant takes it out quickly the first time, points it. And you will hear witness testimony who will tell you the first time he does it, his finger is on or around the trigger. He does it again, takes it out very fast, points it. And once again, you will hear testimony that his finger was on or around the trigger. And the evidence will show that that third and fatal time, he takes it out once again, fast, hammer's cocked, he cocks the hammer, points it straight at Ms. Hutchins, and fires that gun, sending that live bullet right into Ms. Hutchins' body. You will learn that this bullet was a .45 caliber round that entered Ms. Hutchins' body right underneath her right underarm. It perforated her right lung. It traveled through her spine, lacerating her spinal cord, and then it exited on the left side of her back. That bullet then went into Joel Souza's right shoulder, and it came to rest in his back, from where doctors removed it once he was transported to St. Vincent's Hospital here in Santa Fe. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that Ms. Hutchins did not have the same fate. You will see the aftermath of the shooting, and you will see medics frantically working to save Ms. Hutchins, to stabilize her, to transport her, to airlift her to UNM Hospital. But the damage from that bullet was too much. Ms. Hutchins succumbed to her injuries and bled to death. The evidence will show that meanwhile, after the shooting, the defendant began to claim he didn't pull the trigger. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that's not possible. You will hear from Mr. Pieta himself, who will tell you that gun will not discharge without a pull of the trigger. You will hear from firearms experts who will tell you that gun will not discharge without a pull of that trigger. The evidence will show that law enforcement officials arrived at the scene on October 21st after the shooting and immediately took this gun into their custody. Then later, they asked the FBI for assistance in processing this gun for forensics and examination. You will learn that the gun and some ammunition that was taken from the set and from PDQ arms were sent to the FBI for analysis. You will learn that the gun first went to the DNA section of the lab, where a DNA analyst found the defendant's DNA on this gun. And then the gun was transferred to the firearms and tool mark section of the lab, where a firearms examiner examined this gun very carefully and closely. Bryce Ziegler, who is the firearms examiner for the FBI, will tell you that when he received this firearm, he first examined it. He didn't see any defects, didn't see any modifications. He tried and he checked the hammer in the 3 different positions, cocking positions. He checked the quarter cock position, fine. Checked the half cock position, fine. Checked the full cock position, fine. And when he held it in the full cock position, you will hear that hammer held until he pulled the trigger. You will also hear that Mr. Ziegler test fired this gun 12 different times. And each time, that gun fired as it was designed. Each time, when he pulled that trigger, it fired. And he will tell you that not once did this gun malfunction or discharge on its own. Now, the evidence will show that because the defendant had been claiming that he didn't pull the trigger, Mr. Ziegler suggested one last test to the sheriff's department. Mr. Ziegler told the Sheriff's Department that he could do what's called an accidental discharge test. He obtained authorization to do this test, and you will hear that he left that test for last because that test could potentially damage the gun. Mr. Ziegler went forward after he received this authorization and conducted the accidental discharge test. And you will hear, ladies and gentlemen, that during that test, a couple of the internal components of this firearm damaged. You will hear that the trigger sear and the full cock hammer notch were damaged during the accidental discharge testing. The evidence will show, however, that before this accidental discharge testing by the FBI, this gun functioned and worked perfectly fine. You'll see the video footage of the multiple occasions during which the defendant used this firearm on the set, and each time he fired it, it was working just fine. And in fact, you'll hear evidence that the defendant himself admitted in December of 2021 that this gun didn't have any mechanical problems. You will hear from the two of the country's leading experts on firearms forensics, Michael Haig and Lucian Haig. And they will tell you that they examined the revolver and the damaged pieces extensively. They will tell you that the damage to the full cock trigger notch is consistent with the accidental discharge testing that was conducted by the FBI. Lucian Haig will tell you that in August of 2023, he examined the trigger sear, the other piece, and that when he looked at it initially with the naked eye, there was nothing wrong with it. He couldn't see anything. But then he put it under the microscope, and he noticed some kind of rough microscopic diagonal lines on the surface of the trigger sear. And since at the time he did not know how Mr. Ziegler had conducted the accidental discharge test, he opined that these very small microscopic lines were likely not caused by the FBI accidental discharge testing, but he could not exclude that as the source of those lines. Then a few weeks ago, Mr. Haig will tell you that he spoke with Mr. Ziegler, and he learned how Mr. Ziegler had conducted the accidental discharge test. Mr. Ziegler explained that he affixed that firearm onto a fixed platform and then struck the firearm on 6 different planes with a rubber mallet. And Mr. Ziegler explained to Mr. Haig that he had not affixed the mallet to another fixed device. Instead, he did it freehand. Mr. Haig will tell you, with his 50-plus years of experience as a firearms forensics expert, he opined or concluded that those very tiny microscopic diagonal lines on the surface of the trigger sear were likely caused by the FBI's accidental discharge test. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that regardless of how those tiny microscopic lines got on that trigger sear, these firearms experts will tell you that those would not affect the functionality of this firearm. At the end of this case, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to conclude and be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that on October 21st, 2021, that gun the defendant had asked to be assigned worked perfectly fine as it was designed, and that the fatal and one of the main problems that afternoon of October 21st was that the defendant didn't do a gun safety check with that inexperienced armorer. He pointed the gun at another human being, cocked the hammer, and pulled that trigger in reckless disregard for Ms. Hutchins' safety. And you will be convinced that the only true and just verdict in this case so that true justice can be served is a verdict of guilty to involuntary manslaughter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Spiro?
Just touch the screen. You have to touch it harder. Okay, straight up.
All set? May I proceed? Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. This was an unspeakable tragedy, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. He was an actor acting, playing the role of Harlan Rust. An actor playing a character can act in ways that are lethal, that just aren't lethal on a movie set. These cardinal rules, they're not cardinal rules on a movie set. And I don't have to tell you much more about this because you've all seen gunfights in movies. And the reason that can happen is because safety is ensured before the actor. On this movie set, there were people responsible for ensuring the safety of the set and the firearm. Those people failed in their duties, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. The most critical issue in this case is how a real bullet got on a movie set. The evidence will show that real bullets are never supposed to be on movie sets. Movie sets use dummies and blanks. Movie sets use dummies, fake inert bullets that look like real bullets, they don't go bang, for when you want a close-up of the gun. You can't tell them apart from live bullets by looking at them, which is why live bullets can be nowhere near a movie set. And if the director wants a shot of the gun going, bang, poof, there's blanks that they can use. And those blanks look nothing like real bullets. And they are used for those shooting scenes. And, they'll play these videos that they described of Alec's, firearm in the movie going bang, poof. And people are conditioned to seeing people firing weapons and thinking that's a dangerous act. That's a dangerous act. And they will play those videos and give you that image to try to tarnish him in your eyes. But that's not what happened here. On this set, there was a real bullet, something that should never be on a movie set, something which has nothing to do with making a movie. And you will hear no evidence, not one word, that Alec Baldwin had anything to do with that real bullet being brought onto that set. The second critical issue in this case is why did a real bullet get loaded into a prop movie gun? It is undisputed that the bullet was loaded into the gun by the armorer, the person on set whose responsibility it was to ensure the gun was safe. And so picture that moment of the armorer placing a live bullet into that firearm. You hear the prosecutor say, he did this or he performed in a certain way. He picked out the biggest gun as his prop. It's to tarnish him in your eyes. You will hear no evidence whatsoever. No evidence that anything Mr. Baldwin did, that something he did in that moment, that horrible moment when she put that bullet in that gun, none of it had anything to do with Alec Baldwin. And finally, the first assistant director's job, the head of safety, Dave Halls, checks it before it goes to the actor. And he will tell you he made a tragic mistake. He failed to detect a live bullet. And Alec Baldwin had nothing to do with that either. So all this evidence that the prosecutor just outlined, all of it, has nothing to do with these critical issues. Nothing. Which leads us to this. The evidence will show that on a movie set, safety has to occur before the gun is placed in the actor's hands. In this case, this unique case on a movie set, the prop gun was placed in Mr. Baldwin's hands and cold gun was announced, meaning it had been checked and double-checked by those responsible to ensure the gun was safe. It was just a prop. They all thought it was just a prop and could do no harm. The actor's job is to act, to rehearse, to choreograph his moves, to memorize his lines. He's Harlan Rust. He's an outlaw running for his life, who in the incident in question, he's pulling a 6-shooter to try to defend himself. That's why the gun has to be safe before it gets into the actor's hands. His mind is somewhere else, in the being of another, a century away, an outlaw. He must be able to take that weapon and use it as the person he's acting would. To wave it, to point it, to pull the trigger like actors do, in ways that would be lethal in the real world, but are not lethal on a movie set. And I'm going to show you that scene now before lunch. And if we could just play action.
I'm gonna go find some help.
I don't need no damn help.
You're gonna die if I don't.
He's wounded on the run. So play again. Continue.
Arlen Rust. Need you stand up nice and slow, toss any weapons you have.
He's on the church pew, bleeding, his hand gripping the revolver. He would defend himself against the men in the movie. Play.
One more. You good? Ready?
Set, ready, and action. Arlen Rust. Did you get up nice and slow, toss any weapons you have?
What help was can I get right there?
Joe, you want me to wait to give you that line till he lands? Till camera lands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 minutes, one.
Yeah.
Draw your gun and look up and point your gun, okay?
Okay, which way? Camera right or left?
This side, for now.
So camera left for now.
I'll stand right here for you, Alec.
So whip it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me get this all greased. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Okay, ready? Ready.
And set, ready, and action.
Arlen Rust.
Do one more just like that. You got one more? Yeah.
Ready, ready?
They want him to do it again. There's no danger. They want him to do it again.
And set, ready, and action.
Arlen Rust. Nice.
It's a scene similar to scenes we've all seen in movies and television, performed by thousands of actors. And the scene that continues after lunch is the same scene, it's just not unfortunately captured on videotape. And the scene they envisioned and acted out, that prop gun was positioned in the afternoon so close to the camera that you could see inside, that you could feel it. You could feel that it was loaded, and it was loaded, of course, with dummies. Dummies to make it look like a real gun. But this one time, one of those dummies was a real bullet. The real bullet was not known to anyone in that church. Amongst the actors, directors, and crew in the scene, everyone was doing exactly how they go about their business every day on a movie, not as if some lethal element had been included in the environment. You will see creativity and movement and everyone talking and vibrant. No one had any idea that this venomous, toxic element had been inserted into this magic they were creating. But it did. It entered that place. It killed an amazing person. It wounded another, and it changed lives forever. And so to find out what happened on that movie set, you need to do something that the prosecutors could never do. You have to step back and remember what they were doing on a movie set. What were Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, Joel Souza, the director, and Alec Baldwin, the actor, doing on Bonanza Creek Ranch? You know, movies and magic have always been closely associated. The first people that made movies were magicians. And this imagination that happens in movies, you know, King Kong, he can stand above a city, and Superman can fly, horses and snakes and gun battles. For this to all work, for cinematography, what Helena did to work, for acting to work, you have to be so close to the barrier of real and imagined that the viewer feels that they're there, that it's real. The viewer can't see strings from the stuntman. The stuntman must leap. The snake must hiss. And guns happen in movies all over this country for many decades. Bang, bang. You've all seen it. Guns have been an element of theater and film and television since the earliest of times. Depictions of war and combat, Spartacus, it stirs audiences because it feels real. Later films, Platoon, Apocalypse Now, they showed the unvarnished realities of war. This ranch, Santa Fe, it had been the scene to many gunfights and movie scenes, well before Alec was even born. Laramie, Butch and the Sundance Kid, and these westerns.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yeah.
The evidence will show that guns are in movies because movies are about people's lives and guns are in people's lives. So let's talk about the evidence and how the lethal bullet got there. How did this happen and how did it unfold? The evidence will be the following. Everybody on a movie set has a role. The armorer armors, the director directs, the actor acts. They work in harmony, but they have a division of responsibility. Safety being important has the first assistant director, whose name is Dave Halls, above the armorer and sort of the safety of the set. And on that day in question, the cast and the creative directors and crew in the church, it's a fake church, their actors are not in their normal clothes, it's costumes, there's debris falling from the ceiling, it's fake debris, and they yell out "cold gun." And that is an important term you're going to learn in this case. It means that the gun is cold. No one need worry. But even that requires a little bit more explanation. Cold gun doesn't mean no live bullets. There are for sure 100% no live bullets on movie sets. That's unimaginable. Cold means you don't even have the fake blank poof in it. You don't need to worry even about eye gear or earplugs for that fake bang. It means it's empty, inert, cosmetic, can do no harm. Cold guns can't hurt people. It's impossible, literally impossible for a cold gun to hurt somebody. You could hurt you more by dropping it on your foot. And that's why these artists are carrying on in their art. Cold gun, all clear to go. And the armorer on this set hands a prop gun to Alec, like she had done times before, like people have done with him in movies for a generation. And he's there. He's in the movie set church with his movie set gear and his holster, and he takes his movie set gun. And he's deeply focused in that moment on his character. The artists, the crew members, they're moving around him. Again, no eye gear or earplugs, nothing to protect against. They carry on, they practice, they rehearse, they take a lunch break. Some folks leave, some don't. They continue the scene. Dave Halls, the head of safety, is actually practicing the movement so they can frame the footage that will happen after lunch. And the prop cold gun comes back. The prop cold gun comes back, cold gun. They call it again. Same gun, again, safe. The first assistant director, Dave Halls, head of safety for the entire film, a man with decades of experience, comes and takes the additional step and inspects the gun. Verifies again, cold gun. Everyone relax. Go back to focus on the making of a movie. There's nothing in the gun that can hurt anybody. And Alex sits on that pew. And the creative directors, the crew, they're moving around him, in front of him. And Harlan Rust, he begins, like the prosecutor told you, rehearsing, acting. This is a completely mundane, uneventful, routine act on a movie set. And so everybody carries on, Nobody fathomed, imagined, foresaw any possible danger. They moved around Alec as he practiced his draw. As the prosecutor put it, working out the details of the move and the actor. He does it again, does it in a different way. Nobody bats an eye. And they will tell you that the investigation revealed that Baldwin was practicing drawing and pointing the weapon of the scene with guidance and instruction from Helena Hutchins and Joel Souza. The gun goes off. Everybody's shocked. Alec is startled. He immediately says, I didn't mean to shoot I didn't pull the trigger. Immediately. What the hell just happened? They collectively exclaim. Shock turns to panic. 911 is called.
Out at Bonanza Creek Ranch right now. We've had 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally. He said someone was shot? 2 people accidentally with gunshots as on movie set, Bonanza Creek Ranch. Send it. I'll connect you with medical dispatcher. Don't need that. Santa Fe Fire and EMS, what's the location of the emergency? No, Bonanza Creek Ranch. We've had 2 people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately. Okay. This fucking AG that yelled at me at lunch because asking about revisions. This motherfucker. Did you see him lean over my shoulder and yell at me? He's got disgusted guns. He's responsible for what happened in the Now, Mimi? No. I'm a script supervisor. How many people were injured? 2 that I know of. I was sitting, we were rehearsing, and it went off, and I ran out.
Accidentally shot on a movie set with a prop gun. The fucking AD, it was his responsibility. Not a word about Alec Baldwin. While they're en route, police, EMS, the cast and crew are outside trying to figure out what happened, frantic, talking to those responsible for the prop and its safety. The armorer is yelling, sorry. Hall's the first assistant director is panicked. The prop master, Sarah Zachary, I don't know exactly where she is at that point, but they check the gun feverishly. They take the ammo out of the gun. They look at it, what the heck happened? They go back to the prop cart that houses the ammo. They're touching the gun and manipulating the gun, emptying it. They go and move some stuff off the prop cart, trying to figure it out. Sarah Zachary, the head of props, will tell you she threw some stuff out. And eventually, of course, EMS and police arrive pretty soon thereafter. And Helena Hutchins and Joel Souza, the director, are transported to the hospital where Helena tragically passes away. And I'm not going to be asking questions about her condition after she was wounded or the medical interventions that followed. Her injuries, the efforts to revive her, are not in dispute in this case. The evidence will be there. The prosecutor may present some of these emotionally charged images, but we're not going to be asking questions about that, and it's not an issue in dispute in this case. You jurors are allowed to ask yourselves whether or not that should be the focus or the focus should be the evidence. So police enter the scene. They have lapel cameras. Thank God they have lapel cameras. You want to see what happens? The evidence will show you can play the videotape. Want to see if they take the right gun? Play the videotape. Want to make sure what the people said or did they're remembering correctly? Play the videotape. And so they immediately recover the prop gun and they secure it. That's off to the side. And the reason that you preserve things in the moment is so that you know what existed in the moment, the evidence in the moment, the people and the witnesses and what they said in the moment. These folks, the members of Rust, they'd never been through anything like this before. That is why what they originally said matters so much in this case. If you remember anything I say today as the evidence proceeds, remember that. Look at the evidence of what the people of Rust said and did that day. Life changes, memories change, there are human motivations, internal pressure, external pressure. That's why preservation is so important. So the police continue. In terms of the prop cart and the prop ammo that's on the cart, it's manipulated, altered, kind of messy. And at this accidental shooting on a movie set, the police begin to make some mistakes. No one had ever investigated a prop gun on a movie set before. They recover the prop gun, but they don't wear gloves. They don't have the prop car inside the crime scene. Someone moves it onto the crime scene. People start touching it and showing, okay, this is a dummy, this is a blank. And then they make another mistake that matters in this case with some more significance, which is that they don't secure the prop truck that houses the cart. See, that cart that they roll off comes from a truck where all of the ammunition, all of the firearms are, and that's where they're stored. They don't secure the prop truck for several days. And then the prop house that supplies the truck, that supplies the cart, they don't secure for over a month. A lot of mistakes. They had never investigated a case in a movie set. But they had the prop gun. That was key. And so they needed to figure out where the live bullet came from. They had the shell casing, Starline brass. That's the sort of make. You'll hear that phrase, Starline brass. And the police were right to focus on that. That was the lethal element. And so they work outward. Makes good enough sense. Folks around the ammo and the gun to be interviewed at the precinct. The armorer at the precinct. She loaded the live bullet. Halls, head of safety, he double-checked. And Alec walks up to the police. You'll see this early today. And he says, I'm here, whatever you want to do, whatever you need me to do. Just tell me where to go. And Sarah Zachary, the prop master who threw out the stuff at the cart, they missed her that night to bring to the precinct. But the rest of them at the precinct. And thankfully, we have the lapel cameras.
And then they cleared the gun outside after his request, and I witnessed them clear it and saw the bullets.
Okay. So
The one that was missing, the one that fired, we don't know, but all the other ones were proper.
I can pause this. I can turn this off. Move on. That was just a quick snapshot of the scene.
Let's approach her. This is Ms. Johnson.
They consented to the exhibits. The remaining witnesses from inside the church are interviewed on the scene. They're interviewed with lapel cameras. They're interviewed by the lead detective, Detective Cano. And those witnesses, some of them will come in here and testify. And not a single one of them will tell you anything different than what I'm about to tell you about the evidence. The gun was double-checked, verified it was a cold gun, not an actor's responsibility to check. Safety was ensured before. Alec was doing his practicing, his rehearsing, his movements. People manipulate and point guns on movie sets. The gun went off during the rehearsal. No one saw him intentionally pull the trigger. It was obviously a tragic accident, but Alec committed no homicide. Alec took the gun from those charged with its safety. He did not tamper with it. He did not load it himself. He did not leave it unattended. It completed his costume and his character. It was an actor handling a prop and integrating it into the character of Harlan Rust. There was a dedicated professional there, off camera, whose sole sacred responsibility was that prop safety. And Dave Halls, the head of safety, was there by her side. Everyone relied on that. And it was tragic that they let them down. He was just acting as he has done for generations. And it was the safety apparatus that failed them all. So law enforcement continues. They need to find the live bullet. That was the lethal element. So they, led by Detective Cano, execute a search warrant on the church. And that's what law enforcement does. They immediately go to a judge. They say, this is what we need to do. They go into the church urgently before anything can be altered. They're confirming it was an accident, not a crime in the church. They searched for guns and ammunition, videos and photos. There was no further answer in the church. They had the prop gun. They had all those witnesses secured. Their statements are clear. Alec had committed no crime, but the bullet was a mystery. And so they focus on the bullet, the critical, lethal bullet, and how did it enter the movie set. So they had the prop cart, and then they go do the warrant on the prop truck. And so at that point, and I'm going to put up a photo so that you can see who some of these individuals are, they're trying to figure out when they go to the truck, what is the source of the lethal bullet. And so they execute a warrant on the truck approximately a week later. The Seth Kenny that you heard about in the prosecutor's opening, the supplier for the set, he's there. Sarah Zachary, the prop master, she's there. And they walk through what's inside of the prop truck with law enforcement. But there's no answer to the lethal bullet. And you know, this case then takes on, all this pressure. The media begins swirling. Where is the lethal bullet? How did it get on that movie set? And what about that actor, Alec Baldwin, who had nothing to do with why the bullet got on the movie set? And so police and prosecutors, they work hand in hand, meeting after meeting, trying to find the lethal bullet, meeting with Seth Kenny, meeting with Sarah Zachary, the prop master, the supplier. Where is it? And about a month after the incident, Sarah Zachary finally sits down with law enforcement to answer some questions. And she explains to them that she threw away some stuff. She disposed of some stuff. And the prosecutors and police keep meeting, swirling media, and then at that point, they go to the last step, right? We've done the cart, we've gone to the truck, we met with Sarah Zachary, and they go execute a search warrant on, as the prosecutor told you, PDQ, the prop house. And again, Seth Kenny's there to greet them, let them in, and they don't find the lethal bullet. They never did. They never did. And as things roll into police and prosecutors, cell phones and photos and forensics, looking for this shiny object, they found another shiny object. Instead of trying to find the source of the lethal bullet, they focused on Mr. Baldwin. But Mr. Baldwin was like every other actor. He goes bang bang in movies. He's told when guns are cold or not. He rehearses and acts as his character. Safety proceeds before the actor. Once the actor has the prop gun, he can handle it however a person he's acting as would. A properly cleared gun can't hurt anybody. And so they told you about some of the things that Alec said in the statements that they will take or picked out a few lines from. But he won't tell you anything different, that he took a gun loaded and cleared by the armor and the AD. He made motions with the gun as he was rehearsing. He didn't intentionally pull the trigger. The gun just went off. And he does say, I didn't have a problem with the gun before. And this idea, that they said that he didn't want to check because he would offend them. In this moment, he's been doing this for 40 years, the evidence will show. And he has habits, and there are also SAG guidelines that tell actors what to do and what not to do. And the SAG guidelines don't tell actors to check the gun. You will see them. That's not the actor's role. And so I guess the point that they're trying to make is that why in this specific moment he doesn't break his habit of 40 years and check it differently and sort of insult them this one time. If he had done that and started playing with the gun in that way, they'd be saying, arrogant actor, why is he doing that? So they will play these statements, Alec's statements. You're going to hear a man in shock and grief, a father, an artist, worried about his family. You hear he's, on one of the calls, he's going to meet with the decedent's family, the Hutchins family, and he's upset about that. He will talk to law enforcement. He will call them. He doesn't need a lawyer. He didn't commit a crime. He will call them and offer to meet and speak over and over again. And ask anyone in the acting world. Actors know. Actors rely on armorers and point guns and shoot guns. The Armorers Act, what they did is clear and proven. The head of safety, you will learn, took responsibility for his verification failure. But Alec committed no homicide. So law enforcement didn't have a homicide case against Alec Baldwin, but they changed the question. You heard the prosecutor tell you about this. Did he pull the trigger? Did he pull the trigger? Did he intentionally pull the trigger? And if he did, of course, that would only make his statement incorrect, right? That would mean he would have misspoke, been incorrect. And I want to stop for a moment and just tell you, because you're going to hear a lot of testimony, expert testimony like the prosecutor told you, about the gun functioning imperfectly. Did he let the hammer down when he cocked it? Did he hit the trigger? Did he, in a calculated manner, as the prosecutor made a motion, fire the gun like that? And when this issue is discussed, it's easy to sort of pull yourself into courtroom land and away from a movie set. On a movie set, you're allowed to pull the trigger. So even if he intentionally pulled the trigger like the prosecutor just demonstrated, that doesn't make him guilty of homicide. He did not know or have any reason to know that gun was loaded with a live bullet. That's the key. That live bullet is the key. That is the lethal element. But again, as the prosecutor told you, if they could prove that he intentionally pulled the trigger and he was imperfect, imprecise, wrong with what he said, then maybe you take that and you say he's lying. And if he's a liar, he committed homicide. And so what they do is they take the prop gun. They're blinded by the shine. They're blinded by trying to disprove Alec. They take it and they order a destructive test on the firearm. They order the FBI to take a test that they know will destroy the firearm. It's a pointless, unnecessary test where they blindly try to make this big case by taking a mallet and smashing the firearm. At the time that they did that, they knew that Alec had adamantly maintained, that he was manipulating the hammer and the gun just went off. That the witnesses said it went off out of nowhere. That there are these accidental discharges that happen on the set. That guns have issues in the real world. That this gun had a hair trigger. And the owner's manual of this specific gun actually says that if you load it with a live round or any round in the chamber, in that last position, and you drop it like you see a cowboy in a movie, this type of old cowboy gun can accidentally go off. I don't remember hearing anything about that. The evidence will show that. So rather than trying to answer the question of what happened, they proceed with the destructive test. They eliminate the one item that could prove what Alex said and believed. They didn't offer him a chance to test the gun. They didn't take the gun apart before they broke it and destroyed it and look at its inner workings. They didn't turn on their videotape. They just destroyed it. Can't ever be tested in the same condition it was in that day. Won't ever allow Alec to show his truth. And the destruction of this gun that you will hear in this evidence is symbolic of this entire case. Because the officers will tell you at that point, they weren't really investigating anymore. They were trying to disprove Alec, to get Alec, to have this day. And so after the destruction of the firearm, they hired some expert witnesses you heard about to pick up the pieces, so to speak. And the state retained Lucian Haig, an expert with over half a century of experience. And he will come into court and he will tell you he's never seen anything like this in his entire career. They conducted a pointless test, a test that would lead to inevitable destruction of the firearm. There were other correct tests that they could have done to prove whether or not it could have accidentally discharged. None of the experts can test the gun in the condition it was in on the day in question. Why? Not because of something that Alec Baldwin or the crew members of Rust did. They were all clear. The gun just went off. But because of something that law enforcement did. And they deprived him of that opportunity. However, Lucian Haig will tell you that in his analysis, he did find modification that he thought likely pre-existed the FBI testing. And what that modification means and how it impacted the gun is hard to perfectly know, of course. But it was a modification on an important part, the critical part of the firearm. And it was important enough for them to put into a report and to write a new opinion about. They felt this revelation had to be sent to prosecutors. And they maintained that position, that this modification was a matter of import, for almost a year. And then a few weeks ago, before trial, they just took it back. They just took it back. You will get to see the circumstances of that take back. How far they would go for the shiny object. They never solved the question of the lethal bullet. They destroyed the gun, and all they were left with is Alec Baldwin and the movie they intend to put on. But because they never solved the lethal bullet, they eliminated the prop gun, there will not be one witness, not one shred of evidence in this trial that Alec knew or should have known the gun was loaded with a live round. So they can't prove their high-profile homicide kit. So they will proceed to then, here and now, tell you about other things, other evidence that you will hear that has nothing to do with what happened in the church on October 21st. That the movie set as a whole was improper or anything, that they hired the wrong armorer, I think I heard in opening. The evidence will show that the armorer was hired by somebody else, trained by somebody else, had done gun scenes on Rust with somebody else before Alec even got there. She was the daughter and the apprentice of the most famous and well-respected armorer in Hollywood. And she had just left serving, being an armorer for Nicolas Cage on another Western. Then they'll come in and they'll say, but what about the movie guidelines? You heard about Mr. Jorgensen and the movie guidelines. That one of the protocols wasn't followed. Or there was a set safety issue about something unrelated to this. Like these movie guidelines on a set or the things of Navy SEALs and NASA. The guidelines were followed. They followed the safety guidelines. Actors don't check the weapons. Safety is ensured by dedicated personnel. So they will say, but there had been accidental discharges on the set, that guns had fired accidentally prior, not related to Alec, by the way. But again, that's the people we looked at. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's fault, Sarah Zachary's fault perhaps, Dave Hall's faults, workplace issues. Some of them will end up, and you will hear the witnesses in this case, many of them have brought civil lawsuits. And you'll hear that, in those civil lawsuits, they're presenting evidence to try to meet a burden, not a criminal beyond a reasonable doubt homicide trial burden, but they're going to try to prove their cases in civil courts. And that's where faults and accidents are, at worst, 99% worked out. Not here. But you'll hear these members of the Rust crew come in here. They'll try to make sense of this for you. Some of them have sued. Some of them are in grief. Some of them are in grief and have sued. And part of this grief they feel, that everybody feels, is understandable. And what they will do is they will tell you, if only we had had a second armorer. One of them will say, if only Dave Halls had checked better. If only the camera hadn't been right there and Ms. Hutchins wasn't leaning over the camera. If only I myself did this. If only Alec did that. This is natural, their testimony. It's part of the human condition. It's part of grief.
Objection, Your Honor.
None of them knew.
Yes.
As I was saying, the witnesses, in their grief, will look for reasons to try to make sense of this tragedy. But again, none of them knew or should have known about the lethal bullet either. No one had any idea that it was on that set or in that gun. In that world, they were all in it together. And you will hear that none of this other stuff has anything to do with those two critical questions we started with. Why there was a live bullet on set, why the armorer placed it in the gun, and of course, why the head of safety failed to detect it. None of it speaks to whether Alec knew or should have known those things. He didn't. No one on that set did. It was not foreseeable. You will hear that word from the witnesses and from eventually the instructions. Foreseeable. This was anything other than foreseeable. And they must prove beyond any and all reasonable doubt that this was foreseeable. Total indifference to human life, that death might occur. He's an actor. He's an actor. But here we are at a homicide trial. And so they will pull witnesses, and witnesses will be cross-examined. They will push themselves to the edge of truth and beyond. You know, these things about, Alec didn't notice this or Alec didn't notice that. I want to make sure that you're clear on something that the evidence will show. He had been filming on that set for a handful of days. The evidence will show he had just gotten there. It's not as if he had been there for months and months and noticed things and failed things, and he had just gotten there. You don't notice every little thing when you start at a new place and when you're in the character of Harlan Rust. But they will push forward and they will have gaps in the evidence as well. Don't expect you to be hearing and for them to call the first AD head of safety. I don't know if you'll be hearing from the lead detective, Cannell, who investigated this case, the lead detective, or the sergeant that supervised him, Sergeant Zook. I don't think you'll hear from Mr. Schilling, who was the lead investigator for the prosecutors. And so as you hear this, you jurors can assess about that gap of evidence. And there's one thing that I can tell you you will not hear also. You will not hear from an actor or an expert in acting. And so they will play the videotapes of Alec Baldwin, the actor, acting. They will show you perhaps over and over again him in shooting scenes. Bad Alec shooting a gun the wrong way in a movie scene. They will try to get you to picture that and forget that this was a movie set in the first place. And you will see actors in a Western acting. And your mind might go to your favorite gun scene in your favorite movie. You may picture actors and actresses doing exactly what you see here. The other actors in Rust doing the same thing that Mr. Baldwin was doing. But when you come back from that moment, remember, this is a homicide trial. And you will see soon that the reason they play those videos of him over and over is because they don't have any evidence of actual homicide. And you will learn the truth. Not a day goes by when we don't wish Alec had saved your life. But never, the witnesses will tell you, in the history, is something that an actor has done. Intercepted a live bullet from a prop gun. No actor in history. No one could have imagined or expected an actor to do that. So just remember that truth. So when they cry out justice, justice is truth. This was an unspeakable tragedy. Alec Baldwin committed no crime. Thank you.
All right, thank you. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our morning bathroom break. So please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. And follow what Mr. Bing tells you to do. And we'll see you back here about 20 of. All right, thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Call your first witness.
State calls Nicholas LaFleur. Sir, please,
Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, have a seat. Talk into the microphone.
You invoke the rule, Your Honor?
Sure. Rules and votes.
I'm sorry? With regard to the invocation of the rule, our case agent is in the room. We just wanted to put that on the record.
The prosecutor indicated that they'd be calling the case agent early in the case, so given that, I did not continue my objection that I had earlier to her being present. Thank you.
Case agents allowed in.
Sir, state your name and spell your last name for the court record, please.
My name is Nicholas LaFleur. My last name is spelled Lefleur.
And how are you currently employed?
The City of Santa Fe Police Department.
And what do you do there?
Police officer.
How long have you been employed at the City of Santa Fe?
2 years.
Can everyone hear Officer LaFleur? Okay. And prior to working for the Santa Fe Police Department, did you work anywhere else?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you work?
The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department.
And how long did you work at the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department?
About 2 years.
And were you on duty on October 21st of 2021?
Yes.
Did you receive a dispatch call?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you received and what you did?
A call came in that there was someone shot at a movie set. Unclear who shot, how many were shot. I happened to be the closest person to the call and arrived on scene first.
So when you arrived on scene, when you say first, were there other law enforcement officers there?
No, not at the time when I got there.
Were there any other first responders present?
There was some fire personnel and what they call the scene medic for the movie set, I guess.
You said a scene medic?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you, let me ask you, when you receive a call for a shooting, what's your primary concern?
Priority life.
And what do you
And
mean
to
when
make
you say priority life?
Make sure whoever needs help gets help and that the threat is stopped.
And when you arrived on the scene, and where was it?
Bonanza Creek movie set, I guess. It's quite a ways off the interstate.
Okay. And what county and state is that in?
Santa Fe County, state of New Mexico.
Okay. So when you arrived there, give us an idea of what you saw. What was going on?
It was a big, old, like cowboy western theme, like city or a town. There's a bunch of people running everywhere, bunch of cars, bunch of people pointing. When I got there, people were pointing towards a church, and I got out and I attempted to grab my medical bag and went in and saw.
Hang on, I'm gonna stop you there. Approximately how many people were there on scene?
I don't have the direct number, but there was more than 100 people.
Have you ever been called to a shooting where there were 100 people already on scene?
No.
Did that present any specific challenges for you?
Yes.
Explain to us what those challenges were.
Just there's a lot of moving parts. Just got to take it one piece at a time. See who's hurt. make sure that, one, that nobody's continually getting hurt, and then two, the person who's hurt, medical attention is being given to them, and then go from there.
Okay. And when you arrived on scene that day, were you running your body-worn camera?
Yes.
The state moves for the admission of State's Exhibit 4.
No further objections, Your Honor.
Am I,
Are you,
I want to just make sure I'm connected. I'm ready to play it. Permission to publish?
Was you going to recognize it first, or are you satisfied with the foundation?
Yes, Your Honor, we've consented to both lapel videos
All right,
today.
That's fine. Okay. So you may publish, this is States 1?
4.
States 4.
How do I get the monitors to come on?
Brian's going to do it with
Okay.
Do you know how to do it? Go ahead, do it.
All right.
Looks like the meds are here at the gate. Tell them that I'll jump in over they can follow it.
Hold on, his monitor's not on. Are your monitors on? Yes.
This one's not.
We'll turn it on.
It's on, but it's green light. Green light's on. Let me go get the adapter.
Well, can he redo it from here while he's looking? Or do you want?
Sure, if the monitor won't just come on?
He's got to get the adapter. Go get the adapter. All right.
Okay. Officer LaFleur, do you want to turn around and just look at the monitor on the wall behind you?
It doesn't matter, man.
Okay, let's do that.
You got your tunnel kit? Yeah, I'm trying to get it out. Stupid new truck. Are we inside with the PPMs?
Officer LaFleur, tell us what's going on in the video right now.
I'm looking for my other medic bag. I handed the individual a trauma pack for shooting, and I'm attempting to open one of the storage boxes in the back of the truck.
Who was the individual that you handed something to?
I believe it was a fire personnel that I followed in, a volunteer firefighter maybe.
And I thought I heard the word, is it BVM?
It's for CPR. It's a bag valve mask.
Bag valve mask.
BVM.
Okay, thank you.
We need
Where you at?
a seal. You have a seal?
A seal?
Seal.
I got a sterile glove and a packing glove.
Okay. Over there? Over there? Yep. My hand is on it. Talking? Where's that? Over your right shoulder. Stop. We're going to get you up in the
Who she shot at?
She came in here and it went across her chest. And it came out the back and it went into her.
You want air flight?
Yeah, we got one in route.
Okay.
And what are you talking about there when you say air flight?
helicopter that's designed to transport people that need advanced treatment faster than an ambulance. It's a helicopter that air paramedics basically.
Did you call for the helicopter, or did someone else do that? Do you know?
That individual said that they had already called one, but I called one for one as well.
You
on the
called
radio.
also?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you feel that it was necessary to have a helicopter arrive?
Someone who was shot across the chest. We're quite a ways out for an ambulance in reference to where the hospital is. So,
And when you say you were quite a ways out, how far away is Bonanza Creek?
from a hospital, running lights and sirens, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or more.
Okay.
.32 Santa Fe, one female shot in the chest, male shot in the stomach, requesting air flight.
Requesting air flight.
I heard you there say male shot in the stomach. Is that what you said?
I'm not sure. I didn't really hear it.
Well, as you sit here today, do you recall where the other person was shot?
Somewhere in the chest
Okay.
or shoulder area.
Thank you.
It's okay.
I got you right here. 2432, how many people yell at there?
32, I got just Santa Fe medics.
In your video, sir, can you identify who the set medic is?
It's a little blurry, but I believe it's this lady, right? The one that's bent over with their blondish brown hair.
Is the monitor working now?
Yeah. Yes.
Come on, Joe.
This monitor is working now.
Oh, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know how to touch it to put it? There you go. Thank you. I appreciate you. You can go ahead and remove that.
Oh, I don't know how to remove it.
Can you show them how to remove it?
Push on the menu button.
Clear.
And then there's a clear at the end.
Okay.
And if it's in the way, just push menu.
Do you know who these other people are that are in the room?
No, I know that that person, and somebody over here, the battalion chief, they were wearing Santa Fe medic, county fire medic shirts. So, and they came in the vehicle in front of me.
You don't know who the other people are that are in the room?
I know the other person shot, and then Elena Hutchins, or I maybe misspelled her name or pronounced it, and then the other assistant director, and that's about it.
Okay. And you mentioned that there was a truck pulling in ahead of you.
It was a volunteer firefighter truck.
So did the first responders that we see here in this scene, did they arrive about the same time you did?
Yes.
.32 Santa Fe both approximately 140 pounds. Elderly male and young female. What do you need me here? No. You want a BBM?
Hell yeah, please.
He's good. He's got a broken shoulder. This is us. Repeat your information. Are you flying her out? They're gonna. Yeah, she'll be there.
Officer LaFleur, tell us what you're doing now and why.
I looked over and seen that they were getting the oxygen tank out. Noticed that they were using on a bag valve mask, which was more appropriate for that situation than the one that goes around their face. I'm just helping them, doing as much as I can to help.
So give us a little bit more information. What causes you to believe that the bag valve mask is more appropriate than the one that goes around your face? And when you say the one that goes around your face, what do you mean?
If the oxygen were to run out or they had to use manual breaths, they could use the bag. The other one is just something that's over their face.
Okay. And what made you think that the bag valve mask was more appropriate?
Nothing really. I just believe that's more, I don't know.
Officer LaFleur, are you trained in life-saving measures?
To an extent, yes.
Okay. Was it anything about your training that caused you to think that that would be more appropriate?
It's just what we've been trained with versus the one that was already on her.
Okay.
Gabby, can you just make sure nobody else comes in?
Yeah, we got air.
Do you have ears, ma'am? Do you have stethoscope? Yes, they're in that bag. Right there at the top. Purple? Nope, at the top.
Where are you coming? Where do you go out? This year.
Helena.
Is anybody allowed to go with her in the helicopter?
No.
Helena, deep breath, Helena. There you go. Deep breath, Helena. Deep breath.
Be okay.
Good girl.
There you go, good girl. Deep breath.
Jesus Christ. I was behind you.
Entrance is here. Exit's back here.
I don't know how.
Okay. You guys
Do you have another?
pack it?
No.
What do you guys need?
I just need another gauze pad.
Gauze pad?
Something for pressure. I'll take a big one.
This one?
No, this one's good.
This one?
No. Ab pad, do you have an ab pad?
Underneath the right shoulder blade, the console area coming through.
You're not taking it. All right, thank you. I just need something big. Thank you.
You got a stretcher?
Not me here, no.
Okay. Let me help him get the stretcher. Stretcher.
What are you doing now?
Just trying to stay busy, help clear the way for the stretcher. The ambulance is here.
Thank you.
Here's priority number one. Okay.
Let's clearing all this stuff out of there. We get everything in here and get it out.
All right, we got air flight en route.
Not on me here. We can get it from your office. Helena? Hutchinson.
This is Helena Hutchinson. What side? On this side. Okay.
So I got the air. Thank you.
Get all that up. I'm not behind you guys. All right, so we're gonna need to get her going right away.
Officer LaFleur, have additional first responders now arrived?
Yes.
Can you give us an idea of who's on set assisting now?
So it looks like more paramedics have arrived and Lieutenant Benavides is right there.
Okay, and do you mean this gentleman here?
Yes, ma'am.
That my cursor's on? And who was Lieutenant Benavides?
He was our day shift lieutenant at the time.
Was he a supervisor?
Yes, ma'am.
got it through and through on her. It went through and through on her, through the chest. And then you got one in the arm over there.
Everybody stops what they're doing right now. This is a crime scene. Okay, everybody stop.
Whose voice is that we're hearing?
Lieutenant Benavides.
Okay, roll back. Roll over to the other side. See? Hold through. One, two, three. All right, underneath, pull. Really good. All right, let's go up and down. Let's go down there. All right, let's go good there. You here, okay? You keep your eyes on me. Keep looking at me. All right, we got to be perfect in the back of her. Where the cops go? See the flood? The cops go? You don't know where they're right now. Did you find out? Yeah. You know what size? Just our cover? I'll take that. All right, we got some stairs, guys. Go stairs on the first step.
So what is your understanding about where Ms. Hutchins is being taken now?
Into the back of the ambulance.
And can you explain why is she going into the back of an ambulance rather than the helicopter?
The helicopter hasn't arrived yet, and my understanding is that they have additional medicines and equipment and measures they can take inside of an ambulance.
All right, thank you.
Disconnect there. You got it? Hey, take over that. You guys want to see Vincent? Line up the ETA on the bird. 32 Santa Fe, what's the ETA on the bird?
What did you just say?
I asked them ETA on the helicopter.
And who are you speaking to?
Santa Fe Dispatch.
Do you recall how they responded?
It's been a minute since I watched this video, so.
All right.
Oh, we got the bird right here.
Is the helicopter now arriving?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you doing now?
Appears I'm grabbing crime scene tape.
Why are you grabbing crime scene tape?
To start the crime scene. I don't know if anybody had told me to grab the tape yet, but I knew we needed to start one. So.
You felt that you needed to put up crime scene tape.
Yes, ma'am. Or somebody may have asked for it.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Or somebody may have asked me for it. I'm just not too sure.
Okay. And what's crime scene tape used for?
To mark the perimeter or the inner perimeter of essentially a crime scene which they want to tape off and only allow certain people in and out.
Okay. And was that an issue in this scene?
The crime scene?
Well, cordoning off the crime scene, was that an issue here?
Yeah, it was a unique situation because of the you can't really tie crime scene tape to nothing. So I think at one point they actually used our patrol units as to tie the tape around and go to the next one.
And why is it important to cordon that off?
Just for evidential purposes, allow only certain people in and out, because at this point we didn't know what was going on. So.
And were there people in that area that were not first responders?
Yes.
Approximately how many, if you recall?
I don't know. I couldn't give you a number really. There was just a lot of people on the outside that I hadn't seen originally inside the church. So
Okay, and did you know who those people were?
no.
Okay. Do you see this person here in the gray shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that a first responder?
No.
So when the crime scene tape goes up, what happens to that person?
I can't recall.
Well-
I haven't watched the video yet.
Hypothetically, is that person allowed to stay inside the crime scene?
No.
Okay. Who are the people that are allowed to stay inside the tape?
Medical and for first responders.
Okay.
We need Chief. I'm radio in for my command for my line. Tell you guys, this was in the middle of a shot, and I have live ordnance on the ceiling up there. It's safe. Okay. But it is here, right above here. Okay. Right there. That's okay. And if you get to the point where you say you want me to move, all right. All my guys. Okay. Where's the bird? It's right here. Okay.
What are you doing now?
I talked with the paramedics inside the ambulance, and they asked me where the helicopter was. I told him it was landing, and he asked them to bring the paramedics to them.
So you're bringing the paramedic from the helicopter to the ambulance?
Yes.
All right.
We got approximately 23-year-old female in the back of the ambulance right now. Gunshot underneath the right arm. Went through all the way to the back left. Can you carry this back for you, sir? I got it. You got it? This one's priority. Hey guys. Reading on her own. I've got a weed respiratory rate. Heart rate. Right there. So, it's going to be down. Guys, just get a couple IDs. I don't care whether they're IOs or not. There, grab the IOs up, man. Can you open your eyes for me? Awesome. Yep, there. Yeah, I'll still work on the IO. I'm going to come around. That's it. I'll shoot back. Here, if I could just have you guys just step over there for us, okay? Can I have you guys get over there for us? We're going to have to gather everybody up, get everybody's names, everybody who's on scene, okay?
What are you doing now?
Just trying to think what's next. I think I'm putting the pilot, one of the pilot's headgear inside the ambulance on the other side of the door.
Why are you telling those people to move?
Just to start to gather people up because they're just standing around the church where the said incident happened.
Why didn't you do that when you initially got there?
Just went in and made sure that medical that people were receiving medical treatment, and then slowly go with the flow, see what it could do next.
Are you trained to take action to save lives before moving witnesses around?
Yes, ma'am.
How's it going, sir? I believe you guys will be taking this one.
In the bird then? Did she go in the bird?
No, not yet. They're in IVs, getting IO, and then they're going to take in the bird.
They're coming out, watch yourself.
They're moving it from this one?
Yeah.
There's a couple of them still.
Is that your stuff?
And whose jack is that? Joel's? Okay.
It's got his phone. Be careful, it is bloody.
Okay.
It's got his phone, it's got his other stuff in it.
Okay, well, we're going to just keep it here. So,
Even his phone?
Officer LaFleur, this woman who's speaking right now, she's not a police officer, right?
No.
Was she employed with the fire department?
No, she was their set medic, I'm guessing.
When you say set medic, do you mean she's the medic on the movie set?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he was wearing it. Well, where's his phone at?
I don't know.
Do you have any idea why movie sets would have medical personnel on scene?
It's probably for safety reasons. Someone closer than the paramedics or fire department.
For safety reasons?
Yeah.
Phone.
Anybody have Joel's phone? Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
How can we help you?
I just need your IDs, and then have you guys step outside and wait for the investigators to get here. Okay? Cool.
This is.
Any idea who these guys are?
Just more people involved with the movie set.
Movie set employees?
Yeah.
Is that your impression?
Yes, ma'am.
And who's the props guy? Who's in charge of props?
She has green and purple hair. You can't miss her.
Okay.
I was here when it happened.
You were here when it happened?
Yes, sir.
Who else was here when it happened?
My doctor's surge.
The camera operator.
It's in his front pocket.
How many people you think were in here when it happened?
3, maybe 4.
4?
Maybe.
Okay. So 2 more other than you 2?
Reed, as soon as I see him, he
Reed?
camera operator. Reed, yes sir.
Okay, who else?
Reed Russell was here. Alec Baldwin was the actor on set that pulled the trigger.
Alec Baldwin?
Yes sir.
Where's he at? Yeah, you'll help me find him?
Yes sir. Baldwin's right there on the cell phone with the cowboy hat.
Okay. How's it going, sir? So my understanding, you were in the room when someone was shot?
Holding the gun, yeah.
Okay, alrighty.
What do you need?
Well, I know your name, so it's
Pursuant to the stipulation, I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead. Very good. I want to make sure this is the right part. Okay.
Let me get with my lieutenant and see where we want you to hang out, okay?
Whatever you want to do.
Yes, sir. All right, give me just a second. LT.
So apparently I was not given the appropriate reaction. You want me to jump ahead 5 seconds now? What? I need to know what to do, or I just press play. What do I do?
You want to pull the trigger? Do you want me to have him sit tight or?
Yeah, you have to sit tight.
Sit tight in the unit?
I have the armor in here. This is all their stuff. I have the gun used is in there.
And I got the 2 people that were in the room.
Okay.
You want me to have Alec Baldwin take a seat in the back of my unit or?
No, we know where he's at. We know who he is.
Yeah.
We just need to say, is he in a trailer?
No, he's right there in the gray and black.
Okay. All right. So try to keep him away from everybody.
Okay.
Have him talk to anybody.
Okay. I can just have him sit. I can sit with him in my unit.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Officer LaFleur, at this point in time, what's your intention?
I was going to go back to where Mr. Baldwin was and then escort him to my unit. When I got there, I realized my unit is over here being used as a post for the crime scene.
So what did you do when you realized that?
Just had him sit where he was and had everybody just hang out there. Started writing down people's names.
Okay.
Earplugs, everything.
All right.
What are these people doing?
Seems like they're talking about what happened.
Now, as a law enforcement officer, is that something that concerns you?
Yes.
And why? Why does that concern you?
They could be, one person could be telling them what they saw and mess up what they have to say, what they saw. So it could essentially coerce testimony, I guess. People would say the same thing because the other person said it, rather than saying their own opinion or own view of what they saw.
Okay.
Mr. Baldwin, who's the director on scene?
The guy that was shot.
The guy that was shot? Okay.
Where is he now? I think he's in the ambulance.
Do you guys have a production car? Or?
There's an AD. Name is Dave. I'm waiting for you right now. I'm happy to stay right here and do everything that he's doing.
Well, my lieutenant just wants you to stay away from everybody and not to talk to nobody. So I was.
Wait right here.
We can wait right here and have everybody step back, or we can wait in the back of my patrol unit. But I prefer to not put you there. Okay.
Alex, you want something? You want water or something now? I want to find props to get a cigarette.
So, why did you let Mr. Baldwin sit there instead of putting him in some vehicle and separating him from the other witnesses?
Like I said, my unit was clear across being used as a post, and just because I didn't know what we had right there, came to maintain cooperation with people involved.
Well, it sounds like you gave him an option. You let him choose, is that right?
Yeah, he wanted to stay right there, and I figured if I could keep him there, I didn't see a big problem with it until later on when people were talking and whatnot.
And did you give Mr. Baldwin instructions about whether or not he could speak to people?
I did tell him to stop talking.
And did you give instructions to the other witnesses that were around?
I didn't tell them, but I told them he had to sit there and not talk to nobody.
Okay.
I got one. What do you got? You got medium?
Sure you don't want us to go up?
Are shaking. Try kind of.
Yes, sir.
I'm right there. The silver car is Alec's vehicle. If you want to put him in there.
Mr. Baldwin, is that your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can wait in there.
You want me to stay here?
We can wait in your car if you want to.
I can't smoke in the car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can wait. Hang out right here then.
Is Joe gone? They both gone?
Yeah. Well, they're still working on the female. If you haven't seen the helicopter take off, then they're not gone yet.
If you know, Officer LaFleur, why hadn't the helicopter taken off yet?
I don't know exactly why, but my guess is they have to stabilize the patient before they can put them in the air.
In the air, okay. Why are you just standing there?
Just standing with Mr. Baldwin, allowing him to smoke a cigarette, making sure.
And why is it important for you to be standing there?
Essentially, he's detained, not free to leave, so I'm there with him.
So 3710 interrupt, but that's right. I understand myself there, 65, 65,
Right there, he took his radio off, but that's our first AD.
That one right there?
Talking to. Guys with white hair. In front of that sheriff's car with the gray hair kind of in the
Okay.
shirt.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, I got an officer over here by now with the electric truck. Great.
Why do you have these two gentlemen standing over there that we can see? What is there something important about them?
The guy in the gray I had him stand over there because he was inside the room when I had first got at the church, and the other guy in the brown apparently was in the church too. So I just wanted everybody who was in the church in one area so we could easily be found.
So you wanted everyone that was in the church in one area.
Yes, ma'am.
And are we looking at that area?
To the left of Baldwin is where majority of everybody was. Yes.
Okay. And those were the witnesses that were in the church?
From what I was told, yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Baldwin, how many people were in the room when it happened?
It's a crew.
It's a crew?
He's got some people that a lot of crews outside, inside that building. He'll tell you.
Okay.
He's the one that knows all this stuff. He's asking how many people were in the room at the time.
How's it going, sir? Deputy LaFleur. How many people were in the room at the time? Six?
7.
Officer LaFleur, who's this gentleman who's speaking now in the blue jean shirt?
From what I was told, he was on one of the other directors.
6 or 7? I need a definite answer.
I don't know.
Okay. So I got one here, the two that were injured, that makes 3, and then these two gentlemen, 4, 5. So who would be the other 2?
Yeah, he's got Ross.
More than 6?
Supervisor, I keep track of the narrative and how many square. I can tell you who's in the room.
Okay. Were you in the room?
I was at the door.
You were at the door? Can I get your ID?
Do you know whether or not the person in the jean shirt was inside the church and witnessed the incident?
I do not know.
Okay, why don't you come on over to the back of Three two to 2-4. I have 380s for 3 questions.
Just really just yelling at everybody and screaming at the police. Go back to George. Well, he was inside.
Does it appear to you that Mr. Baldwin is speaking to the other witnesses?
I think he was talking about who would know who's in the room.
Okay.
I can't really hear it. And then apparently the guy's son was working there as well.
Okay. Is this an ideal way to separate someone from witnesses?
After looking at it, probably not, but that's what happened.
Okay. Understood.
You arrived at the door? Do you have an ID on you, sir? As of right now, her status is questionable. That's why we called the air light. Where were you at, sir?
I was right behind him.
Right behind him? Okay.
Yeah, I was right behind him right when it happened.
All right. So just have you guys hang out for me right here. We'll get someone to get your statement in just a second, okay?
And then they cleared the gun outside after on his request, and I witnessed them clear it and saw the bullets.
Okay.
So the one that was missing, the one that fired, we don't know, but all the other ones were proper. They had loads.
Officer LaFleur, does it seem to you right now that they're talking about the incident?
It seems like they're talking about the gun that was used in the incident.
All right.
They reported load blanks.
They had loads. Well, they didn't know. They were supposed to do their shake test before they put the gun to load.
Officer, do you know what this conversation is about that we're watching right here?
Something about a shake test. I don't know. Maybe the rounds, dummy rounds, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not too entirely sure.
Do you agree with me that, well, was Mr. Baldwin supposed to be talking about the incident?
No, ma'am.
Does he appear to be doing it anyway?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought it was in the rehearsal, you give me the empty gun. And they don't use any of the loads. That's hot until we're ready to shoot. So we put the earplugs in. You all right? I'm not all right. I'm worried about her. Yeah, well, me as well, but what's your situation? She's stable now. You get her in the air, get the back, hit the shoulder. Hit her where both of them took it in the shoulder. Hers came out the other shoulder, which is why it's not good. His, the shoulder blade stopped it. So, shattered. There's basically a rotting, it's a blank, but because I think it was based on the sound and how much ringing I had, I think it was a half.
Officer, are they still talking about the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason that you didn't stop them since you told them not to?
I think as time goes on, I tell them to stop.
It's a good bit of rotting. And that's
okay.
It's the barrels. So who knows what else is in the room? My other hand.
You were in the room?
Effects crew.
Okay. Get your ID, sir.
That's what I was saying. I think there was more than 6 or 7 guys. I think it was about 8.
You see this gentleman over here on the left?
Yes, ma'am.
Any reason to believe he was inside the room at the time?
I'm not sure at this point.
Okay.
Were you in the room too, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
but he potentially has got their is right. It's not stuck here.
Where did he take them? He went over this.
He took it to the right shoulder. His right shoulder blade stopped it, but they're hearing stuff in his right.
And where did she? He went out to that.
Did they take it? Was he gone? As soon as they were allowed to. So they'll stabilize both, and then once the sheriff says you're good to go, they'll let them go.
But she's going to you and
So she basically they're trying to stabilize her vital signs enough for the flight,
Sure.
and administer any kind of narcotics or anything they need, blood thinners that may be. Then they'll load her up in the helicopter and they'll fly her there. I believe the other ambulance is on the other side, and he seems to be doing better than she was, so
Absolutely.
they might drive him in an ambulance.
Okay. I heard him rave off the other bird, so.
And where did they put her? He went out to that.
Both of them took it in the shoulder.
When I was up in Joel, I didn't see nothing on him before they put me out.
He just went over.
Yeah,
I ran
I
out.
came back in the queue and I was helping him and I didn't see nothing. I was asking if he was alright. He couldn't hear me.
You and him at the trauma hospital.
Still St. Vincent's. They're both trauma ones. So.
Thanks for the information. I was curious.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just put the ring on my wife.
Yeah, no problem.
I got more out.
Get him out of my line. There's nobody in his line. He walked around. I want to get him. He's got to put a camera here. I want to
Officer LaFleur, have more first responders now arrived?
Off to your right, you can see. There it is. Off to your right, you can see more patrol units showing up. This deputy showed up, but this corporal had been there for a minute.
And approximately how long have you now been on scene?
According to my body cam, a little over 25 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Corporal. I got 7 people. They were in the room when it happened. All their IDs. So.
Okay. Just get it all brought down. I'm not sure what the CID come out there.
It's okay.
At that point in time, what was your understanding of how many people were in the room and witnessed it?
I believe I said 7.
Okay. Do you know whether or not that turned out to be true?
I think there was actually more. I wrote all the people who said that they were in the room in my report.
Okay.
Hey, sir. Okay. And I'm just hanging out with him because, he's the one who pulled the trigger. So.
Okay. Yeah, he tried it. Sorry, I was trying to set things up a while ago. And
What are you going to do? Whatever you're going to do.
what are you smoking? Got one on you?
You got a notepad? Ready? All right. Do you have a notepad?
Officer LaFleur, at this point in time, I know he's no longer in the frame, but the gentleman in the blue denim shirt, do you know whether or not he was in the room at the time?
I don't recall if he was in the room or not.
Okay.
I know there was some director or whatnot there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have mine either. Yeah, so I start. Yeah, I know. It came off when I was given, trying to pack wounds. Yeah. Okay.
Officer LaFleur, does it look like Mr. Baldwin is speaking to a potential witness?
He just looks like he's talking to the guy who says his name is one of the directors, yes.
Okay. Is that what you had in mind when you asked Mr. Baldwin not to speak to anyone?
No.
Do you know what they're talking about?
I couldn't hear what they were talking about. I did hear him ask him what cigarettes he was smoking and if he could have one. So.
Careful, he has a bunch of loose cards in there.
Oh, geez. All right.
Or do you want to just try some pages off?
No, because I'm going to be writing quite a bit. Everybody was in the room. I mean, I have my phone on me. Yeah. It's all right. I'll just, yeah, I'll write it down.
Do you see the gentleman in the denim shirt gesturing? You want me to back it up?
Yeah, which one? Are we talking about this gentleman?
Yeah. Do you know what he's gesturing?
No, it looks like he picks up his hand. Now that you play it back, it looks like he's shaking his hand.
And had you seen him do that previously?
No, not until just now.
I thought you testified earlier about a shake test.
The gentleman was talking about a shake test,
Okay.
but I have not seen the director do it until reviewing the footage now.
Okay.
My eyes aren't always exactly where the body cam's pointed, so.
Absolutely. When you tell people not to talk about the incident, do you have an expectation that they'll follow your instructions?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it look like they're following your instructions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Officer LaFleur, I'm going to stop the video there. What else did you do on scene that day?
I helped essentially just wait with other witnesses, I guess, or people that wanted to give a statement or they needed a statement from at a different location. It was their base camp is what they called it.
So you needed to take statements from people that were at another location? Is that what you said?
No, we took people from where essentially where we had them, and they took them down to their base camp, and that's where they started interviews.
And the people that you take to base camp, are those the same people that we see here in the video?
I believe so. Those people, and I don't know how many people they ended up interviewing.
Did at any point in time did Mr. Baldwin tell you that he didn't pull the trigger of the gun?
I believe he told me he was holding the gun. I believe in the beginning when I was leaving the church, one of the guys said that Baldwin had pulled the trigger. So just off of what was told.
And I know that this sounds ridiculous, but we have to follow some jurisdictional rules. Do you see Mr. Baldwin in this frame here?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you point him out, please? And do you see that same gentleman in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you point him out, please?
He's sitting in the middle with the glasses.
Okay. Anything else that you did of import that you can think of that you think the jury should hear about?
I think that's about it.
How long were you on scene, if you recall?
From when I got there was, I don't know, about 10 hours maybe or so. I was there till dark.
You were there for 10 hours.
Yeah, until they were done interviewing people.
Is that typical?
It is if that's what they need to be done, so.
Okay. Your Honor, just for the record, we would ask that the record reflect that Officer LaFleur has identified the defendant.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
May I proceed?
Sorry, Mr. Spiro.
Oh, sorry.
Get that out of your way.
It's always fine when the court interrupts me. Sorry. May I proceed?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. When you got to the scene, Mr. Baldwin walked up to you and said, I was holding a gun. He blurted it out, right?
Yes.
And in fact, he was very shocked, if you could picture Alec Baldwin in a pale state, very unsure of himself. You could say an actor out of character. Fair?
Sure.
Object to the former question. It is Mr. Spiro testifying in the question. Okay. May we approach?
When you saw Mr. Baldwin, he looked very shocked. If you could picture Mr. Baldwin in a pale state, like unsure of himself, you could say an actor out of character. Is that a fair description?
Sure.
And he said to you, I'm here, whatever you want to do, right?
Yes.
He said to you at one point, where should I go? Right?
Yes.
And he also pointed out to you who the director was on scene who was hit in the shoulder, right?
I believe so. He asked, inquired about him.
And he also asked you how she was doing, right? Meaning Miss Hutchins, right?
Yes.
I don't remember you being asked about that in direct, were you?
And you being asked by the state?
Yeah.
Objection relevance?
Overruled.
So I want to take a step back. The dispatch that came over your radio, sir, before you got to the scene was a dispatch for an accidental shooting by a prop gun, correct?
I believe that's what was told to me, yes.
Okay. And you've testified to that previously, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the dispatch report, you know that you received that wording, accidental discharge, several times, right?
I believe so.
Okay. So I want to ask you, how come when you described it today in court, how come you didn't include the word accident when you testified before this jury?
I'm not one to say if it was an accident or not. Just there to initially respond to it, and then the detectives determine whether or not it was an accident.
Well, sure, but every other time you've been asked about this, you've said it was an accident. And now today at the trial of Alec Baldwin, when you're talking to this jury, you left that word out. Isn't that true?
Not intentionally, no.
Did you meet with the prosecutors before you testified here today?
Just briefly in the room outside for them to tell me who was in order of what witness.
You've discussed your testimony previously with Ms. Morrissey, correct? Before today?
Just in a pretrial interview, yes.
We've talked about your lapel that was on. It's true, right, that the lapel is actually mandatory,
Yes.
right? And so they came to the officers, passed a law, and told you you had to wear your lapel, right?
Yes.
And the way it works is it secures all of these statements, and when you're done wearing it for the day, you go back to the station, you log it in, and then it exists, right?
Essentially, yeah, but it's more complex than that. It uploads on itself.
Oh, it self-uploads so that it maintains itself?
Yes.
Okay. And you then talked a little bit about the securing of the scene, and you talked about crime scene tape going up, right?
Yes.
But as you just told this jury, at the time, you don't know whether this is an accident or not, right?
Yes.
It's not like a crime scene tape is some evidence of a crime, right?
Whether it was an accident or a crime scene is still essential.
And you've been very candid that you made some mistakes at the scene, right?
Yes.
And that you've learned since then about some of these mistakes, right?
Yes.
You've said hindsight's 20/20, right?
Yes.
And you can Monday morning quarterback decisions, but you made them in the field, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've said that based on your training and experience, you know that if witnesses are left to speak to each other, they can taint each other's memories, right?
Yes.
And sometimes that's incidental and accidental, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's purposeful, right?
Depends on who's there, yes.
Well, if you were with somebody and somebody was talking to you about the 911 call, right? And they kept saying to you over and over, it wasn't an accident, it wasn't an accident. And then you testify and you leave out the word accident. That could be an example of taint, couldn't it?
Sure.
And also, non-witnesses can taint people's memories too. You agree with me?
I guess.
Well, at one point in your testimony previously, you had said that there was a lawyer on the scene that was talking to some of the people that were on the scene.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And if that lawyer told somebody on the scene, I think your understanding is that could have tainted their view of their memory, right?
Essentially, yes.
Mr. Baldwin never asked to speak to that lawyer, did he?
Not to my recollection.
And then you went on and you said, that you had told Mr. Baldwin not to speak to the other witnesses. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
And I think you were asked approximately 5 times why Mr. Baldwin was disobeying your orders. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. But in the lapel video that we just saw, you're not going up to Mr. Baldwin or these witnesses, but get out of here. Get out of here. I'm an officer. You got to separate. You don't do that, right?
Nope.
And also in that video, you can see a lot of these people are coming over to Mr. Baldwin, right?
Yes.
One of them comes over and shakes his hand, right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen that in all of your experience? Somebody commit a homicide and everybody and all the witnesses are on the scene, circling around the person, shaking his hand and talking to him about what happened. Have you ever seen that in your entire career?
No.
And then you went on to say, well, you didn't put him in the cruiser. You didn't put him in the cruiser because your cruiser was being used. Was I guess the reason that you gave? Was that? Did I understand that right?
My patrol unit was being actively used as a post on the other side of the field for a crime scene.
When you say a post, you mean like it goes somewhere else and you put the tape around it? Is that?
The side mirror was wrapped around with crime scene tape.
Uh-huh. You mean there were also another dozen officers on the scene that day that had police cars if they wanted to put Mr. Baldwin in it at any point, right?
Yep.
Okay. And in fact, Mr. Baldwin later on drives himself to the precinct and goes and speaks to the police, right?
I'm not too sure how he got there, but he did get there.
Well, he wasn't under arrest, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And so you use this word detained. When Ms. Morrissey asked you, were you detaining Mr. Baldwin? Do you remember that question?
Yes.
Isn't it true that even today, years later, no police officer has ever arrested Mr. Baldwin or detained him in a police car? True?
I don't know.
The police department, the Santa Fe Police Department, has never arrested Mr. Baldwin.
Not the
Back
Santa
to
Fe
the
Police
form of
Department.
question, asked and answered.
And one of the things that you do as an officer on the scene is you observe demeanor, right?
Yes.
And you spent 10 hours on the scene, I think I heard you say, right?
Yes.
You got to see the people of Rust that day live, right?
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that you took it as a way how everybody was acting, and that the individual who claimed to have been holding the firearm was still there, that there was no, the way he was, his demeanor was that there wasn't any intention behind the act, as you could say. Isn't that true?
I wouldn't say there was no intention. I don't know the individual's intentions, but his demeanor was sad, upset.
Okay, well, it's not just his demeanor being sad and upset, right? Okay, we'll move that to the side. And I understand you're not a mind reader, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All you can do is look at the people and look at how they're interacting and make your own judgments, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you do that as a police officer to try to figure out how to interact with a scene. True?
Yes.
Okay, and isn't it true that the way you took it, how everybody was acting, and that the individual who claimed to have been holding the firearm was still there, that there was no, the way he was, his demeanor was that there wasn't any intention behind the act, as you could say. Isn't that true?
Again, the wording you're using, I wouldn't say I
Okay.
had any clue of whose intention was what, but he was sad and upset.
Okay, well, let's play. I'm going to play his statement to that effect. Can you cue that up, please? If that's okay with the court. He's saying he didn't say that he did. I'm going to impeach him.
I don't think he said he didn't.
Well, you want me to clarify that?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you claiming that you didn't say that?
Rephrase what you said?
Sure. Dispatch said it was an accidental shooting by a prop gun. So I didn't know if there was any. I took it as the way how everybody was acting, and that the individual who claimed to have been holding the firearm was still there, that there was no, the way he was, his demeanor was that there wasn't any intention behind the act, as you could say, you know.
Again, I wouldn't say I knew what his intention was.
I understand that. What I'm asking you now, okay, is did you in fact say those words that I just asked you?
At what time? The Gutierrez or PTI?
Yes.
I may have.
Okay. You don't deny saying that?
Your Honor, let's
No.
approach if we can.
Sure. So one more time, I'm just going to ask you, did you say that statement that I read?
If you're reading the statement and it says my name next to it, then I more likely said it. I just don't recall when.
And one of the other things that happened that day that I don't think we've talked about is you spoke to a witness who told you that a woman named Sarah was crying and shaking and going through the bullets and saying, I don't know how it got in there.
Objection, hearsay.
I'm asking the witness if he had that information.
He's making the statement, the hearsay statement is coming in.
Do you know whether anybody at the scene was, before you got there, shaking and going through the bullets and saying, I don't know how it got in there?
I don't know.
Okay. If we could refresh the witness with his lapel, and I would ask if you just, can I put it up on just his screen? Okay.
I don't think you can do that.
I would object because that's not proper refreshment. We don't refresh in front of the jurors. That's my objection.
What do you mean?
Well, if we're refreshing,
You know what? We're going to take a lunch break real quick, and we're going to be back at 1 o'clock, okay? Please don't talk among yourselves.
Rise for the jury.
Can you show me this thing?
All right, you're excused. You can move over. And this thing is a battery and counsel approach.